Welcome everybody to Eye of the Serpent Tarot for part 2 of the Soul Activation series. So just as an opening thing, if you haven't seen part 1, I would kind of suggest clicking off this, going and watching part 1 and then coming to part 2, because there are six episodes, so to speak, in this series, and they go in sequential order 2 steps at a time through the 12 steps of Joseph Campbell's Hero's Quest. So it could set the scene. That the first one was really setting the scene on the type of activation that was coming into being for you. But if you already think, look, I actually know, I've sensed the soul activation, I kind of have a sense about what I want to do. I'm at the second sort of point where it's now I'm feeling a bit of resistance. I'm trying to work out where to find my mentor, my guides around this, all of that kind of thing. Then you come to the right reading and you don't need to do that. So it's really up to you. But yeah, if you just happened upon this and it's the first one that you've seen, you might want to go and look at the first in the series, or watch this one and then go back and watch it. So I did do an introduction also in the first one, talking about the structure of this and how to do it. And one thing I just might repeat that's important, if you are going to watch the whole series, I have asked Spirit to have a kind of subtle through line from a pile to pile to pile. So if you chose pile 2 in the first one, you should choose pile 2 here. And then if you feel drawn to any of the others, watch them as well to supplement it. But there will be a kind of a through line. So that's the other thing to be aware of. But beyond that, all of them will start, as this is here, with a Major Arcana card from Alexandria Huntington's Nameless One Tarot. And the choice of using that plus her oracle cards from the Nameless One Oracle deck is to use as part of the activation the very positive sigil energy that she has for the archetypes of the cards. So it's meant to make some of this pick a card experiential as well as just sort of like channeling from spirit. So bear that in mind. The deck is incredibly beautiful, but it's maybe in some cases not instantly obvious what cards are there. So I will tell you which these are. These are 3 from the Major Arcana, and there are 2 from her oracle deck underneath this, with some cards from the Gnostic Tarot as well. So today's one is all about the 3rd and 4th stages of the hero's journey. And this is where we resist the call, and where in the process of that we often meet a mentor, a teacher, a guide. It could be internal, it could be external, it could be spiritual, it could be material. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. We're going to be looking at where is your resistance and why to what you're being activated to do, and where might you find, or in what kind of guides might you have to be your mentors, to be your guides, and so forth. So that's the terrain that we're looking at. So that then with part 3, we're going to start to look at crossing the threshold and committing to do it, and sort of testing out the environment. Who are your allies? Who are your friends? Who are your combatants or competitors, or whatever it might be? So as I say, we'll just go through the process. But today, why and what are you resisting in your activation, and how would you find a mentor or a guide or an energy like that to help you with that resistance, to clarify it, and so forth. So for pile number 1, we have the Moon card. For pile number 2, we have the Tower. And for pile number 3, we have Strength. So as I say, if you did watch the first one and you chose a particular one, I would go and look at the same pile number this time around. But if you feel really drawn to one of the others, then supplement it, because it might be an amalgam of both. But when you know what reading or readings you want to go to, I've got the timestamps in the description box below as always, and I'll see you there. Welcome pile 1 to your reading. So you came to the pile with the Moon card. And the moon is all around mysteries, things that are unseen, shadows, things that are not clear. The light of the moon is not as strong as the light of the sun. It's hard to see your pathway. So it's a very appropriate activation card for this stage, because we are looking in a sense at some of the shadow energy. Shadow energy comes up at various stages in this, but certainly when there's the refusal of the call, where it's kind of like, no, I don't know enough about this, I'm not ready for this, things aren't clear. All of those energies are operating. In terms of the oracles, it's interesting, I think, and I don't remember readings too well after I've done them, and so I may or may not be right about this, but I think that this Lord of Wealth card came up with pile 1 in the first readings as well. And it was saying that there was definitely a material side of this. If not, it turned up in one of them. So it may be you want to go back to the first series if you didn't see this before, and just check out which one it was in, because there could be a connection. This card, which is sort of energetic flight, did come up in a different one as well. So there may be some crossover for some of you, or it just may be that there are similar themes operating. So the Lord of Wealth is saying this is a material thing. There is something very material in what this is all about. So some of your resistance may be that you're wanting to manifest wealth, abundance, or whatever wealth means to you, because it could also be about health and all of that kind of thing as well. Anything kind of that is a form of wealth for ourselves. But you may not think the way is clear enough, and this is why you're sort of refusing it. It may sound too good to be true, that kind of thing. But there's also within you an impetus towards energy and moving forward. So you're almost pulled in two directions, one which is more cautious, one that is a bit more Pentacles-like, wants to take it slow, wants to see the evidence, and a side that wants to move very quickly. And at the moment, this sort of energy around this is saying that you are resisting because you're not sure what's clear. And if we took these two in sequence as being the two stages, then the resistance is around the material outcome and the material evidence. The mentor helps free and energize you and inspire you. So whether it's an internal mentor or external one, or a bit of both, that's the energy. That's what it's going to bring to it. When we look at the Gnostic Tarot, the first energy here is very emotional. This is Sophia's journey, which is the Cups journey, and this is the King of Cups. So there is something here. There is something about healing, well-being, that kind of energy. And I do think that did come up for pile one in the first part. I think it did. But in any case, there is something here about emotional healing. I think around what it is to be wealthy, what it is to be clear and going in the right direction. And then there's a sense of like having a strategy. Christ's journey in the Gnostic Tarot is swords, and we have Defender, which is the Knight of Swords. So it's once the emotional issue is brought to light, and so I think it's an emotional response that is kind of in the shadows with the moon, you have a sense of rapid movement, which fits with this energy of the birds flying, of energy moving forward. And we also have a swords card here with part of Christ's journey, which is reversed, and it's the 10 of Swords reversed. So there is a liberation of a kind of mental restriction. So I think it's about faith, interestingly enough. I think there is a thing here about moving into the emotional acceptance of grace and faith, that this activation is real and that you are meant to move forward with it, that like all the evidence won't be there instantly because we have the moon, but it will show itself over time. Let me tell you the affirmations that are associated with these cards. So for the moon, it says, I dispel illusion and reveal the truth. So there's a lot here, as I say, about emotional truth and intellectual truth. And like that's more important than material truth. It's like the material truth follows, but there's a block about evidence, I think, here. So I think that you are probably someone who does need the evidence before you fully believe the spiritual. And I'm a bit like that, so I understand it. But this is saying that your own mind and your own heart can help you, can guide you through the moon energy. Then when we look at the Lord of Wealth, so where the resistance probably is, we have I am wealthy. So this is like something about, this is meant to be financial luck, but I feel like you almost have a feeling of that would be too good to be true. I can't trust that. When's the other shoe going to drop? So that's an energy to be aware of. It's also a card that talks about when one is wealthy, one needs to be generous. But I feel like with the King of Cups there, you've got that covered. That's not the issue. So I think it's more about doubting if you can bring it about. Then the affirmation for the energetic flyer, which is this card, is I have an abundance of energy, stamina, and focus. I do think the focus might be important there, particularly with the cards that are around the intellect. It may be that some of you have a natural ability to create a business, create wealth, all that kind of thing, but you tend to get lost in the emotions and not have a clear strategy, so your focus isn't there. So if you've done quite a lot of entrepreneurial stuff, but it hasn't really happened, or you wanted to move up the ladder in your career, but it doesn't seem to take, there might be something here about the energy you use. Is it being dispersed too much? Are you looking at 5 different things where if you looked at one thing and really focused on that and moved towards it, maybe the others will come later, but you would get the proof and you would get the energy. There's a kind of a clarity. If you were under the moonlight, then where is the light brightest. If you could imagine for yourself a scene where the moon is shining, where is it brightest? It's that kind of energy. Focus on that and get the direction. So let's see at this stage, when you're starting to go, okay, I'm not really sure about this, and it's a block around, I don't have enough information to go forward, but there is an energy which a mentor or guide in one form or another can help you with. Where in your life is this most manifesting, this stage of your activation journey? Personal and spiritual growth. Okay, and that makes a lot of sense because there is a very material thing around this, but it ultimately is about finding faith. This is what this is showing me. There is the way through is faith. Faith in a mentor, faith in an approach, whatever it might be. And so it's going to play out that way. It's about your own personal and spiritual growth, your emotional growth, the structure and the strategy of it. Let's see the advice that Spirit wants to give you about this stage when you're doubting, when you're refusing the call, when you're going, no, I can't do this. But there's another part of you that's calling you towards the energy and the inspiration of it. The advice for you is solitude. Spending time alone is often what we need to hear the whispers of our soul. Get to know all aspects of yourself so you can stand on your own in any situation. Now, that's an interesting one given we have the mentor coming. I think this is a pretty strong indication that your mentor is more likely to be either a spirit guide that you need to be on your own to be able to connect with and hear, or it's something within your own self, your own higher self, for instance. I don't think it's saying the mentor is necessarily going to be someone who comes along and teaches you something. So it may be that if an earlier stage had an energy around teaching, then this may be now about going within. And in fact, in the first reading, the card that was for pile 1 was the Hierophant. So that was talking about teaching, learning, or whatever. I think that this is saying that there is a step between the first, well, there could be two things actually. For some of you, there is a big time lapse potentially between the first stage and then when you resist it. It's you go and you study something, you enjoy that, but when it comes to applying it, you feel like you still don't have enough information, you still don't have enough guidance. But if that's the case, Spirit is saying you do, go within, you have it all now. On the other hand, it could be that you have identified in the first stage what you need to learn, and you're kind of going, I don't want to do this. I don't think I've got the right teachers. I don't think there's the right course. This would be suggesting that there's maybe something within your own study. So private research, that kind of thing. Depends a lot, because I'm pretty sure that the pile 1 for the first part of this series, there were in certain circumstances you might need a qualification or something like that. I think that's the one where there's a bit of time between the two and the resistance comes in applying the knowledge. But if that's not the case, then I think this is saying that the guide and the teacher and the structure is within. Some of you, in fact, if there is a connection between the Hierophant energy and the moon here, you have past life memories and things like that of sort of mystery school stuff, or that kind of energy. So again, it's within, but it's pretty strong indication that at this point, the guidance comes from within. Or where you need to be quiet, so your spirit guides. I don't think that it's necessarily turning up as a person or a set of people in your life at this point. So let's get a little bit more information about it. We're going to use the Lumen Tarot, which we used in the first series, and we're going to use this in many of them, to give us a bit of a sense or a bit more detail about this. And then I'm going to actually use the Ego Observer Tarot as well, because it's a tarot that really looks at internal psychological aspects. And I feel like this is very important to when we're refusing a call and when we're trying to find our mentor or a teacher or a guide. Our ego, our sense of self is very important. But firstly, with the Lumen Tarot, I want to have a look at a little bit more about what is the resistance, and then to look at what will a mentor bring to the table, mentor, guide, or whatever it is. And then, as I say, we'll have a look at it from more the internal psychological point of view. So firstly, a little bit more about the resistance, which seems to be about not having enough information, not knowing what to trust. The Executioner reversed. War. Oh, wow. Okay. Heaven. A war in heaven. Okay. Some of you might be very much caught up in a spiritual battle. Handmade, that's the page of coins reversed. The Ten of Swords reversed. Oh, that's interesting because you had the Ten of Swords reversed twice. There's definitely something here about coming out of an embattled phase. So this is part of what's going on here. There's the resistance is, it may almost be with these cards here and to some degree here that you have people in this group have got used to the battle being part of who they are at their core. It's part of the material thing. So you could be in very politically sensitive workplaces or high stakes sort of financial sort of environments or social causes or something like that. Or it's just there's been a battle for so long that you almost wouldn't know your way in a peaceful or more calm environment. Because this is the other thing about the moon. It is a more peaceful and calm environment. And that's kind of what the Gnostic Tarot was pointing to, that having reached a kind of emotional fulfillment, there was a sense of being able to move forward in a more peaceful environment. This is saying the same thing. This is saying in many ways a war that you've been battling is over. It's also why I think it's saying that there's material reward. So if you have been looking to move up the ladder or build a business, it's there, it's meant to happen. But you're not used to an environment which isn't somewhere in a war state. In fact, a lot of your energy comes from the battle rather than from the peaceful sort of like building of what you are trying to achieve. The Executioner is all about really harsh endings. This is saying, because it's reversed, that you're not actually ending something here. I think you are shifting out of a phase of war into a phase of peace. So I think this is understanding the environment in many ways doesn't have to change. So why it's kind of like it's a more internal thing. You don't necessarily have to go and find other people and so forth. It's more an internal thing to move your mindset from war to peace. So and it is that it's more how you use the Knight of Swords energy, which is kind of a bit like the Knight of Swords and the Knight of Wands to me are very kind of like we're going to rush into the battle type of energy. It's sort of like realizing the battle is pretty much over. It's now about what do you want to do with this? This is the phase that you're at, but it's almost like you have been battling. So if you've been, if you have followed through from pile 1 in the first reading and you've kind of been studying something or learning or doing all that kind of stuff, or if you've realized that you've got that within spiritually and you could actually do something, then it's like put down the sword, pile 2. There is something more peaceful now. You're meant to actually be able to materialize something more peaceful. And your resistance is you just don't believe that. You just don't have the faith. So it's finding the faith. It's connecting to your celestial sort of realms with heaven. And there is a communication thing there with Mercury, like a download. This is again also why we've got swords so strongly. It's like your mind can do this. It's within to the celestial realms. So I think that that's for most of you what this is basically saying. But for some, I did say war in heaven. For some of you, because this is a very wide-ranging series, and for some you're going to be involved in spiritual warfare, and this is what this is about. I think this is saying that one level has been done, that you are now focusing on a spiritual war about shifting material things that are not functional. The material outcome of almost the war in heaven type of thing. So there for some of you, that is what's going on, and that is why in the first reading, if you did go to pile 1 in the first reading as well, which is what I was advising to sort of stick to a particular pile, you needed to potentially be inducted into the mysteries in one way or the other to do that. So for some of you, that's what's going on. For others, it's more material. It's understanding that you're moving out of a phase where you were embattled into a phase where you can now go forward more peacefully and start to move more quickly. But you're resisting it because you're so used to the battle. It's almost hard to sort of see yourself as anything other than a warrior. So that's part of the issue. So then what would this mentor, I think for you, has to be either like your own higher self or a spirit guide. I don't think it's necessarily at this point a person. You may have in the first of this series met and learnt from an actual teacher, but I think it's at the point that you get here, it's much more what you're internalizing. So what will that mentor guide energy be for you now, pile 1? Dream reversed. Charity reversed. Gee, you're dealing with a difficult environment, difficult things. Eight of Swords reversed. Two of Coins reversed. Okay. You definitely have a mental block on what choice you can make. What going within will help you do is know that you have a choice materially. You feel like you don't, but you do. With Dream and Charity reversed, there's something very realistic about this. It's like it is very material at this point. Even if you're in a spiritual warfare, there's a very material thing about this. There could be communication coming from dreams, but it might be a little bit blocked since this is reversed. So I think it's more likely to be something you contemplate or meditate on than that you sleep on. I don't think you're going to necessarily get the messages from the dream state. There is something about understanding and mediating where charity is appropriate and where it isn't. So charity is one of the cardinal virtues. The fact that it's reversed, I think, suggests that you have to mediate and be clear about where you put your charity, your support, and so forth. That you might almost feel like you want to feed the poor of the entire world, and you can't do all of that. It's what can you actually do? Jupiter reversed, to me, Jupiter is wonderful and expands, but if it expands too much and with it reversed, it's almost like that. It's like it's maybe overdoing it. There is a thing here about being clear not to overdo something. And this could occur if you still think it's a battle. If you think about it, there's something here about having faith so that in a sense that will moderate out and it will become obvious. You will free yourself from this mental trap that says, I don't get to choose, I've got to battle everything. And then I've got to save everybody. That's not really what's going on here. It's almost like, it's like that maxim that, what do they say? If you save one person's life, you save the world entire. There's something like that operating here. It's like getting a sort of manageable path forward, because with the energetic flight, you're going to want to go very fast. And it's similar also with the Knight of Swords in the Gnostic Tarot. You're going to want to go really, really fast. But it's part of what you need to learn is how to manage your impulse to heal and save everybody. And to be realistic rather than just living into a dream, freeing yourself from that and understanding you do have choices, you can move forward. So if anything, I would be saying part of the shadow you have to deal with is a savior complex to some degree. And for some of you, you are in a spiritual war, this is true, but it's also be realistic about that so that you don't burn yourself out. So we're going to use the Ego Observer deck, and we're going to ask three more cards around the resistance and three around the learnings that can come to you. But this is very much on the psychological level, because when you're talking about resisting a soul activation or a calling, it's very psychological, and finding the right guidance is very psychological as well. So a bit more around the resistance. Queen of Cups reversed, Two of Cups, Three of Cups reversed. Wow, there's a lot of emotional stuff around this. And that's interesting because it was really pointing more towards, it was saying with the King of Cups at the beginning with the Gnostic Tarot that you've reached a point of emotional maturity. But there may be others around that you're trying to look after here. And I think it's again saying you can't look after everybody. You've got to almost choose where is the most need emotionally and where is the lack of safety involved. So, because at the moment you're resisting because it's almost like you think maybe it's unsafe for you or for others. Maybe you can't take everybody. Maybe you're not going to win. It's sort of like, how can I do this? This looks bigger than anything I could possibly do. But you are able to make choices and move forward, and you'll go more quickly than you think. But you've got to have faith in that. So there's a lot of emotional energy around the resistance. You may even feel that stepping forward and doing this, you're going to impact close relationships, and you're resisting on that level as well. So let's see where the guidance of a mentor, which is probably, as I say, internal or spiritual for you, going to help. Ace of Coins, the Emperor reversed, the Seven of Wands reversed. Okay. This is, again, the Two of Coins reversed. It's like you do have a choice. Ace of Coins, it's like it will show you what the thing is to focus on and really what the first steps are, because that's all that's being asked of you at the moment. Move forward with the first steps, manifest the first steps. There is a blessing associated with this because this is an ace. So you are meant, again, it's like the ace will eventually get to that card of wealth, which is like the King of Pentacles. So that's the light. If that's almost like a very, very bright moon in the center of your palm. It's there. It's you. It's partly who you are. This is why it's saying that your guidance comes from within. You are your own spirit guide at this point, or you have spirit guides that are very closely connected to you, maybe by bloodline or something, given you can see the veins in this hand. It is saying that it is asking you to confront where you don't feel strong or competitive, and to realize you have all the light and all the energy within your blood. It's within your bloodline. You are a warrior. It's interesting because it's almost as though the real fear for you is not the battle. While you're in a battle, then you're sort of emotionally looking after everybody. And like when you are now at the point to manifest something out of the victory and to move forward with it, that's when you start to doubt. And in fact, I get a feeling that for some of you, if you're used to battling sort of things that are unfair or illegitimate, that part of this might be that you're worried about becoming the thing that you battled. So there is that kind of whole idea that we can become the thing we despise. But again, you are meant to learn that is, you have the choice around that, what you create when you start to move forward with this. And that's what it is. It's what you're going to create to go towards wealth. It's not just what you're battling. It's what you're creating. It's what do you do after the battle, Pole One. That's the point. That's what you're meant to find. You're meant to find your ambition and your self-belief and your readiness to go out and compete and create rather than just be in the battle. Okay, so let's have a look at some things around blocks and shadows. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a card from a Dark Shadows Oracle deck and also from the Stories Oracle, and we're going to look at two different things. We're going to look at a card each for the inner blocks and a card each for the outer blocks. So they're questions to ask to help you. So let's have a look at the inner blocks first. So the first question to ask when working out why is it that you are resisting the call? What are the lies I tell myself to avoid facing the truth? So yeah, moon can be about lies. Are you lying to yourself about the situation? You're saying it's always a battle so that you don't have to take on what feels to you a more daunting task of building something new rather than fighting the old. But you will be able to do this. This is just the resistance at the moment. So then with the Stories Oracle, what's the question also associated with that? What if we are not measured by what happens to us, but rather by how we respond to it? So yeah, it's like, how have you responded to the battle? That's not, you always being in a battle leading up to this in whatever way it is, does not mean that's who you really are. And if you respond by then saying, I've won the battle, what do I create now? That is a much more positive thing to do. So then in terms of the outer shadow, if that's the inner thing that's driving you, the outer shadow, how this is manifesting in your life and how it could be manifesting the block. What do I feel guilty about? Why do I feel this way? Okay, this has got something to do with this. I think that most of you in one form or another, whatever you're learning, building and so forth that you're now being asked to start to activate, you are worried. That's what I was saying. You are worried you become the thing that you battled. Why do you feel guilty? Why do you think that would be the case? I don't think that is what would happen with you, but why do you feel that? And then the question associated with that from the Stories Oracle. How can you fill anyone else's cup if yours is empty? Yeah, you are doing too much. This is part of it. It was sort of showing up with the Charity reverse. It's showing up, but you want to save everybody, and possibly you can't. It's a bit like, they say, when an air flight has a problem, you've got to put your mask on first before you can help others. So there's something here where maybe one of the ways that you if you ultimately accept something in the battle, if you're battling for others all the time and it's very selfless, you can be sure that you're not going to become the thing. You're always the warrior for right. But you are being asked now to take this to the next level and be the creator of right. And so if you realize that you can't necessarily save everybody, but what are the key things? Because maybe it's a ripple effect, and then that the ones you save others. You don't know. It's not to say that you're abandoning things, but there's a different phase now that you're being asked to do. It's to create something, not to battle something. And that's why in the first reading you had to kind of get whatever learning to be in whatever way this needed to be. Now you're meant to enact it. Okay, so let's see what guides you could have. So we're just going to get a guide from one of 3 different areas. So we're going to firstly get a human guide. For you, this could be an aspect of you, I would say, rather than something indicative of who you might meet. We're going to get an archangel guide, and then we're going to get an animal guide. So firstly, the human guide energy, when we're moving now over into what you could create once you move past the resistance. William Blake, creative channel. Wow. Okay. So this is saying that there is something very, very spiritual about this. As I say, spiritual battle, spiritual war. But the thing is, there's something about creativity. This is this energy as well too. It's like, and it's creating in a way that understands light and shadow, because William Blake did that. You know, he did portraits that showed some of the darker energies as well as the light energy. Very, very well versed in the mysteries, and I do think that many who are going through the Pile 1 journey in this particular series are going to be well versed in the mysteries. But it is saying there's something creative, going within your creativity, creative skills in some way, and marrying them to what you're trying to do spiritually is going to help. An archangel guide to help you as well. Wow, Shekinah. Okay, very divine feminine concept here, very kind of Binah in a way in the Kabbalah, but more than that. I mean, because the Shekinah is connected to earth. This is, again, saying why it is. This is why she's holding the earth. Why it is that there's something material around this. This is creating a new world, creating a new Ace of Coins, a new something material. And it's a sort of divine feminine creative energy, and it's manifestation, but it's very, very powerful. The Shekinah is extremely powerful within Kabbalistic and Judaic mysticism. Okay, so you're very connected. This is material, and it's asking you to do material things. It's interesting too that fell with the Heaven card. Like, you are very celestially connected, but it's like very material what you're meant to do. And then when we get you an animal familiar, the links, hidden truths, hidden truths. This is like this. There is definitely a throughput here from the first reading. So if you haven't seen it, do go back and see it, because there is a definite thing here. Some of what is going to make this possible for you to be able to move past the resistance and go within yourself is you will have been learning, by the time you get to this point, some of the mysteries. There are hidden truths that you have. And see how there's the key here? If I remember correctly, there was a key that unlocked all of that in Pile 1's reading for the first of the series. So there is a key here, and it's meant to be manifest. It's about faith. It's knowing that you have everything you need to move forward, Pile 1. So with that, let's get you some stars to guide you as well. New moon, new beginnings, intention, manifestation, hope. Yeah, this is the point where something new is meant to come into being. And as I say, you're so used to learning about all the traditions, all the sort of things that existed before from the first of this series, if you've been following it through, and through being someone who battled the darkness, battled the shadows. But this is new. This is creating something new. And Aries, commitment, competitiveness, courage and fearlessness. This is bringing the energy here. This is helping you move past the self-doubt and have the ambition to take this forward and to know you can do it. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It initiates, it moves forward, it brings in the new. That's something you're meant to do, not just learn the old, have all the old hidden truths. This is manifesting, creating something new. Very, very powerful energy. So when we go to part 3 of this, we're going to where you then commit to cross the threshold, to follow the soul activation, and to learn a little bit more about, okay, what's this new world I'm in? What are my allies? What are my enemies? What do I need to be aware of? So I felt that to close this one out, I would just draw a card from the Human Spirit Oracle for a bit of an energy about what is it that you're crossing the threshold to. So pile 1. Hit your target. Okay, this is going back to the focus energy. It's very, very important to focus, to know what your target is. If you are creating something, it's going to be very, very important to know what would be the measures that would make that work. How would you know that worked? How would you know if you went off course and started to become the thing you didn't want to be? There is something here about you're really on point now. Once you've moved past the resistance, you've gone within, you've drawn on your guide energy within, and you're moving forward with confidence. The next step, this is like, how do you do that? So it's like crossing the threshold, seeing the finish line the minute you do it, even though the finish line will be a fair way away yet, but seeing that, and also knowing, okay, this step is the strategy, an environment scan to work out what stands between me and my target. So I hope that resonates for you, pile 1. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to see. Apart from that, I hope to see you in the 3rd of the series. Welcome, pile 2, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the Tower. So the stage of resistance, very interesting to have the Tower as the stage of resistance and then finding the mentor, because the Tower card to me is always about things that can no longer hold falling apart. And I often say that with the Tower, if we resist it, that's when it becomes difficult. If we just let it happen, then what follows is a star. So a revelation, a brighter future, it clears away what is necessary. Now, I do recall, and I don't know how much this is going to happen as I do these, but I do recall a key element of pile 2's journey, or the activation of the first of this series. So if you have taken my advice and you've done that and you chose pile 2 and you've come to pile 2 here, you know that pile 2 is, amongst other things, a prophet. So you see the future, but you also understand the past. And when we think about the Tower as this incredibly strong energy of where things need to fall so that new things can come, there is an understanding of what occurs. But there could also be a kind of a fear that comes with that about, do you have all the knowledge and so forth to help people with that, to make it occur in a way that isn't just complete destruction. So if you could prophesy, see a tower falling, for instance, then could you have a fear about, can I convince enough people to get out of the tower and out of the way of the tower to let that occur so that then good things can come after that, for instance. So I think the resistance energy here is the extent of what you see coming in whatever way it's operating in your life. And almost that, can I make the tower stand rather than fall? Or can I convince people enough? Or can I understand it enough and in time? One of the things that's interesting for a prophet is that they don't always get things really in an obvious way. They may get symbolic things. They may get dreams, all of that sort of stuff. You think of Nostradamus, he probably looked at his crystal balls, all sorts of things, and wrote quatrains. But, centuries out from when stuff occurred, not really even knowing what he was looking at potentially. So I think that there would be some resistance and fear around the Tower here of, are you up to being able to predict it and take people through that and to the star in whatever way this works. So then it's very interesting to see what you've got as oracle cards, because the first one is pretty much a kind of keeper of the secrets type card. So this is about whether or not you get let in on the secrets. This talks about, if you're keeping secrets, they're safe. So if you have secrets, or you can see this and you haven't expressed it yet and you've resisted it, it's safe. People don't know. You've still got time. But on the other hand, if you're trying to discover hidden information, it will be difficult or disadvantageous, the booklet says. So you can expect locked doors, physical, emotional, informational, or whatever. So part of the resistance energy, because this is more the resistance and this is more the mentor, part of the resistance energy here is that you don't know if you have enough information and you don't know if you can get access to what you need. So you're going to have to go forward with what you what you do know. Now, the interesting thing is that the mentor guide energy is the forgotten ones. And this is about finding a muse or something you discover that will be impactful, that will help, that is likely to inform and inspire. So I think that a mentor or guide, whether it's a person that you meet or whether it's sort of something that's spiritual, is going to act like a muse or an inspiration so that you either then get access to the information or you no longer need it. It could be either. Now, it's very interesting in the way that this processes with the Gnostic Tarot because we start with the fear. We've got the 7 of Naria's journey is Wands, so that we've got the 7 of Wands reversed and we've got the 3 of Wands reversed. This is, you can see the future, you can see the tower falling, you can see that great change is coming in whatever way you've been activated to be aware of. But you're not sure yet what is the pathway and do you have the courage to see this through. So this is big, what you see is big. And I know that I talked about this when I was talking about the prophecy, saying that there are many people, spiritual and otherwise, who at the moment see the world and it is so difficult and so intense and so many wicked problems, as we would say, that it's sometimes hard to even look at it. And a lot of the people in the spiritual world go, all I can do is withdraw and not engage so that at least I'm not putting my fear and everything into it. And that's perfectly understandable that people do that. But prophets don't get to do that. You actually have to look at it, you actually have to see it. It's almost as though your eyes were pinned open and you've got to see it regardless. So you can't blink. So there's sort of something about that. Now, the interesting thing is that the third card here is the High Priestess reversed. So this is secrets coming to the fore. You will get access to this, even if you feel you won't, and you will get the inspiration in some way to use something with it. Helen of Tyre, as a character in the Gnostic stories, was the bride of Simon Magus, so one of the major magician energies. And her story was that he found her as a prostitute and he lifted her out of that sort of lifestyle and then sort of brought her forward as his great love and as a representation of Sophia. So I think this is saying that maybe in the most unlikely of places, perhaps, you are going to find your inspiration. Or it could be saying that when you feel lesser than or not seen, you are going to be lifted out by a mentor, a muse, or something like that, so that your true wisdom and knowledge, because Helen of Tyre, being a personification of Sophia, should have been more respected than she was when Simon Magus first came and found her. But she was caught up in the sort of realm of a darker world, and he helped lift her out of that. So there is something here about your guide, your muse energy is going to help you do that, and is going to give you access to the information that you want. Whether this is an internal or external thing, that is going to occur. So it's a fear of not having enough information or understanding it, but the way that the mentor or guide is going to operate is that they're going to give you the clarity that you need. So that is very positive. So let's have a little bit more of actually, before we do that, let's have a look at what aspect of life in particular the fear, the lack of information or clarity or whatever will most play out in. Wow, money or investments. Okay. It could be either. If some of what you're doing is dealing, in the financial world, all that sort of stuff, I mean, certainly one would have to say at the moment the financial world is volatile at best. So it could be playing out in that if you are in that field. It could be around where you invest your time and your energy and where can the best material investments come. So this could be, given all that you might see, where do you best invest your time and energy? So let's get some guidance for you around that. A new path. You've cleared karma and now your soul is leading you to new experiences. So it's a very positive working of the Tower energy. All the steps may not seem clear just yet. Continue moving forward and the path will begin to reveal itself. So this is pretty much saying if you have fears or blocks around where do I invest my time, my money, resources in this volatile situation, just keep moving towards the new. Keep moving towards a new path. The old path is not going to work. It's not going to work to go, I'm going to kind of put my head in the sand and hope that nothing changes and work with a normalcy bias. You're meant to be one of the people who takes a new path forward. Okay, so because you're a prophet, and that's what prophets do. So let's have a look. Let's get a bit more information with the Lumen Tarot about what is the resistance. Then we're going to look at what the mentor energy can bring in, the mentor guide energy can bring in. So firstly, a little bit more about this resistance energy. Death, the choice itself, the transition, the change. The Empress reversed. Oh, that's interesting with also the High Priestess reversed. The Queen of Swords. Tranquility reversed. The Two of Wands. Okay. The choice itself is a bit of a resistance because to make the choice, to go through, death is a transition or a choice because it's sort of like it's Plutonian in nature. Sorry, sometimes the camera moves a bit. It's Plutonian in nature, and so it's a big, deep transformation. It's a very Tower-like transformation. You are resisting the choice that takes this forward. So that is part of this. And there are external factors that are coming in for this. It's not just sort of something that you could decide within. And just to make you realize how big this could be, when we're talking about the Tower, Prophet or whatever, the symbol that this deck associates with death is a symbol of apocalypse. Now, apocalypse is about Alpha and Omega. It's about Alpha and Omega, so the beginning and the end. So it is about that. It's about all of those sort of things. But apocalypse ultimately means revelation. So again, it's the prophet. It's the major change that you see with prophecy. So it's really underlying that this is what your activation is about. With the Empress reversed and the Queen of Swords upright, this is saying that you almost feel to do this you have to be almost heartless, or you have to go into the Empress reverse is a bit like Demeter reverse. So it's like going into the underworld. It's like, and the death here is like being in the underworld. So it's almost as though there's a part of you that knows you have to descend into the underworld or into an area which almost feels heartless and is more around strategy to deal with this. And there is a bit of a resistance to that. You know, it's like it's not an easy energy. It's not a tranquil energy. Anything but tranquility is reversed here. You have to have a strategy. This feels almost kind of Sun Tzu, The Art of War. It feels to me like you kind of have to almost freeze out almost your compassion to get to the core of this and deliver the message. Even though I think you're a very compassionate person and you want to help others, it's almost as though you have to do that, because that then can lead to some sort of decision about what to do and take action. But you can't, the resistance is this is not a path where you get to sort of sugarcoat anything. If you were a reader like this, you would not get to sort of say everything's sunshine and puppies. You would have to say we're heading into interesting times at the very least. So this is not necessarily going to be a popular message, but it can be a very incisive one. So it's, and you will find, this is saying that you will find a way to express it that takes it forward and is individual, but it's not, there is no way to sugarcoat what's coming. That's whatever it is, in whatever level you're being a prophet, the way out is the way through, as Dante's Inferno would say. You have to kind of go through the hell mouth to come out the other side. So let's see what the mentor or guide energy can help you with. Don't mean to scare you. Feels pretty full on for pile 2, but don't mean to scare you. You're more than up to this. It's just knowing that that's what you have to deal with. So a mentor guide sort of energy can help with Jack of Swords, that's the Knight of Swords, Charity, Five of Wands reversed, the World reversed. Okay, all right. So a mentor or guide around you will give you some kind of intellectual clarity to cut through and move quickly. If you're resisting some of the mental message, there's almost like there's someone who will show you how to deliver the less palatable message quickly. It's a bit like, if you had to, take a Band-Aid off really sensitive skin, it's like a very rapid ripping of the Band-Aid off will hurt, but it will be over very quickly. There's sort of something like, I think a mentor or guide energy will help you deliver the less palatable things quickly, which is in its own form a form of charity and caring. Because you can't You can't not tell the truth, but this is the kindest way that you can do it and the least combative. So it's quick, it's sharp, it's obvious. It's like giving, it's almost like, you have the prophecy and then you have a mentor or a guide who's almost like a PR person who says, this is how we package this information, so that even though it's going to be a little bit unpalatable, people will be able to absorb it quickly and they won't resist it because its clarity will be so strong that they can't deny it. And the mentor is going to say this is a first step on a journey. So right now, and that makes sense. This is sort of like really early in the hero's quest. So it's like just even being able to deliver the first message, find the way to do that, move past the resistance is the beginning of a much bigger thing. And I think it's about new world sort of energy, the revelation around an as yet unborn new world that could come out as a result of this. And it will help protect that. I feel very much like you can see the character protecting the world energy there. And I think keep it a little bit hidden. It's more like the message about the change that's coming, keeping hidden what it could be, allowing for that to develop as well. The mentor would help you with that. So that's interesting. So then I also want to use the Ego Observer deck. So I'm using that instead of the Children of Litha one this time around, only because because it's the resistance and then also finding a mentor energy, it's a very psychological stage here. It's very much, where is our ego, our sense of self, our sense of fear, all of those sort of things coming in. So we're going to get 3 cards for more about the resistance and then 3 cards for more about how the mentor or guide stage can help you. So the resistance, King of Coins reversed, 4 of Cups, the Devil reversed, okay, and then 3 cards for the Muse guide, whatever it is, energy that helps you get the information, helps you move forward, helps you package the message, whatever it is. King of Swords reversed, 4 of Swords reversed, 9 of Coins reversed. Okay, all right. So your resistance, part of this is the breaking down of old traditions. Some of you may even be doing very well in the old system. And it might be like, the last thing I want to see is this tower fall. I'm doing fine. But even if you do see this as a battle that you're always in, it's actually the point at which the battle is about to be won and the old order is falling. That there is a risk here with the 4 of Cups to get emotionally stuck and overthink it and almost get caught in the labyrinth of it all again. And not be able to achieve the freedom. Like this is saying, again, I feel like this is saying that there is an energy of, because of what you're breaking through and breaking down, there's an energy of overthinking the freedom aspect of it and what the resistance to it might be. So it's like, you know how people might respond. They'll get worried that everything's going to fall apart. They'll overthink it all and get an analysis paralysis, and then they won't be able to deal with or free themselves from the patterns that have created this in the first place. There might even be a part of you that thinks, I can stop the tower falling potentially if I could break through this. But it's also, is that hubristic? Can I actually do this? Like, is it salvageable? So you might be kind of caught in that. Like, am I right? Is my message right? I think that's got a lot to do with what's blocking you. What the mentor or guide energy can help with is freeing that mental overthinking, because even though this is the 4 of Cups, it's very kind of mentally sort of portrayed here. There is something in what you are seeing is true, but there is something in its messaging or its logic that is still a little bit immature. It's not fully formed yet, and that's part of what's blocking you. You're thinking like, do I have all the information? But it's not so much that you don't have the information. I think the guide or mentor can show you. It's not that. It's that you haven't put it into an order where you can actually express it, because you can't do this on your own. So you have to be able to express it. So I think the mentor or guide for you is almost like a PR person or a comms person or something like that, communications. There's something like that for you that helping you do that. It's like you're absolutely right in what you see, but helping you structure or present that information in a way that people can absorb it and work with it, because it is pretty full on what you have to say. Okay, so let's have a look at blocks and shadows that might come here. So I'm looking at both internal and external blocks, and we're using a couple of questions for each. So for internal blocks that you might have that's causing the resistance, first question you can ask is, what unresolved conflicts do I have with others and myself? So yes, if this is going to be, one of the things that could be occurring for you is that if you are seeing something coming on a prophetic level, but it's to people that you've been in conflict with, and you want to try and move them or shift them so that everybody escapes the problem or comes into a new energy or whatever it is. If you have conflicts that you're dealing with, there might even be a side of you that's like, how would I even tell them? Why would I even tell them? All they ever do is argue with me. So it's what's going on there that could be blocking you. And another question you could ask on an inner level around this is, ask yourself, what are you really fighting for? Yeah, what are you really fighting for? Because there could almost be here that don't boil the ocean. It could be that if there are some people you're constantly in conflict with and they just want to tell you you're wrong and shut their ears, and they're actually in doing that creating some of the problem, then maybe they're part of the problem. Maybe you should be fighting to reach the people who can hear. Maybe that's all you can do. It's just something to think about. Are you trying to save everybody when some people will resent the hell out of you trying and call you a conspiracy theorist or something like that? Then the external. What's the external questions around the shadow to ask? So firstly, how do I deal with anger and what lies beneath my anger? You're frustrated as hell. I don't blame you, really. I think being a prophet's not fun. I mean, certainly what they say is that a prophet is never honoured in their own land. And there are plenty of stories of prophets who were shunned and then eventually people realise they should have listened. So you could have a lot of anger around this. You could feel that you've just been trying to tell the truth, that you've been trying to be a truth teller for a really long period of time, and that you've been right, and maybe people won't even admit it. Like, I can think of at least one thing that's affected the world a lot of late, and there were some pretty divided arguments about it and what was science and so forth, and I probably don't need to go into much more detail than that for you to know what I'm talking about. And as time has come out, some of the people who had concerns with the approach are being proven to be right. Now, there's always a matter of degree, and it's not to put down people who believed differently before, because it was in a vacuum of not really knowing. But if you were one of the people who had foreseen almost prophetically some of that, what you're probably experiencing now is people trying to deny there was ever a question, or just shutting their eyes and ears to any of the evidence. So it's interesting. I think this particular pathway is a tricky pathway to deal with, and you will probably get angry. So it's important to know that's a shadow. How do you deal with that? Because you're being given this guidance as a prophet because you are actually meant to help others. And another question that could come with this is, given the chance to gaze into the void, wouldn't you? Yeah. I think it's saying, you know what? If you had a choice right now, could you see all of this? Or could you be given the gift of not seeing it all? You choose to see it. Ultimately, you choose to see it. Because it's part of who you are, and in the end, knowing is better than not knowing. So I think it's that can help you deal with that issue. It's better to have the sight than not, even if other people can't always hear it and so forth. So that's some stuff to think around the shadow of this and the resistance of it. Let's then also have a look at some mentors to guide you. So if we've looked at the shadow and the resistance, let's look at the mentor energy. So I'm going to get you a person from history, an archangel, and an animal familiar, so that we have 3 different sort of levels of potential mentor guidance for you. So you have, wow, St. Francis. My favourite saint. St. Francis, it's interesting, like St. Francis, the way that he dealt with his message was to just renounce, and that's interesting with this King of Coins reversed, renounce money, renounce power, renounce all of that, and just go and help those directly who were poor. And he did have a very strong sense of animal communication, so the animal guide here is probably going to be very important. There could be a little bit of a hint here for you that the person who, or the people or the energy of a guide around you could be showing you how to renounce worrying about the material outcome of this and just go towards the spirit. I think that's the kind of energy that this is talking about. Then, because if you are getting head up in whether you're being listened to and what the outcome is, you're very much tied to the material outcome. But maybe you need to free yourself from that energy, because the material outcome is going to shift and fall whatever happens. You're meant to be more guiding towards what is a better way. So then an archangel energy for you. Anachiel. So that kind of connects to first, the way it's portrayed here, First Nations, Indigenous peoples here in Australia. He's essentially a way shower, which makes sense for a prophet, and stepping outside of constraints and sort of like belief structures that are no longer working with a community or a group or a tribe or something like that, a shining light. So this is to say that what you are meant to be is that, a way shower. You don't have to like solve everything for everybody, and you don't have to convince everybody, but those that can follow the light, Anachiel here will help you. And then, as I say, I think, animal familiars are very important to you. An animal familiar that could operate as a muse or a guide at this point, the mentor that you're meant to meet to help you with this resistance. Snake, transmutation of emotions. Snake is the ultimate symbol of change. So this is the change that has to occur. A snake has to shed its skin at certain points. It just has to do it, whether it wants to or not. I have no idea if it's painful. Hopefully for the snake it isn't. There's something very alchemical about this energy, and it's also about wisdom, because the snake is a symbol of wisdom. And in Gnosis was the messenger of Sophia, which is interesting since you had the High Priestess reverse, which was Helen of Tyre, which was a Sophia figure on earth. So there is definitely something here about wisdom, Gnosis, and so forth. So a snake energy around you is very powerful and very healing, I would say. The interesting thing too is that they say with a snake, if it bites you, it's some of its own venom that is actually the cure. So then again, this is this sort of sense of like you have to deal with something difficult. You have to say something unpalatable, but it's how it turns the unpalatable into the palatable. That's part of the process for you. Okay, let's get you just a couple of stars to guide your way. The sun, vitality, life force, energy. So this is your life path. This is who you're meant to be. You may well have the sun in like the 8th house or something like that as a prophet or a medium. You don't have to, but this is definitely your life path. And you can see here with St. Francis that his halo is almost like the sun. In fact, except for kind of hair colouring, they look quite similar, which is sort of interesting. And Virgo, practicality, patience, organisation, details. This is this bit, actually. I think that the sun is about, like your inner self and moving past the resistance to take on your life path. I think this ordering of ideas and structure and so forth materially is part of what the mentor process, the mentorial guides will do for you or help you with anyway. Okay, so to finish off, what I'm always trying to do with this is have a card which is about the next couple of steps. So the next couple of steps, if we've gone past the resistance and you've found the mentor, the next couple of steps, you cross the threshold, you commit to doing it, and you start to do what I would call an environment scan, working out who are your allies, who are your enemies, who are your collaborators, who are your competitors, that kind of thing. So I thought that a card from the Human Spirit Oracle around the energy of those next steps would be helpful. So for you, pile 2, head in the clouds. Okay. So this could be a number of things. If you are crossing the threshold, you're taking in your inner prophet, your inner sort of like change agent, all of those things, and you've got sort of like the mentoring, the help to communicate. You may still find in crossing the threshold that some people may see you as being off with the pixies. Or it may be that you have such grand visions at that point that one of the important things to do will be to ground it and understand who are allies and who aren't. So it'll be interesting to see what energy comes up with it. But for some, they're going to think anybody who's a prophet has their head in the clouds. Some will say, it's not possible, you can't see the future and that kind of thing. Even though magically and otherwise, in many ways, that being a prophet is understanding the past and seeing the patterns. There's sort of like I think this is indicating that you will have that to contend with. And also for you, how you bring that energy down from the celestial realms and how you ground it will be the next stages for you. So I hope you enjoyed the reading. I hope it was helpful. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in the next in the series. Welcome, Pile 3, to your reading. So you came to the reading with strength. And this is interesting. What I am finding, so far I am remembering a bit about the reading from the piles in the first stage. And certainly the general energy of the first two stages of this activation for pile 3 was about taking charge, moving forward with the Chariot and having the confidence to do that after maybe not having the confidence or being held back in some way. So it's very interesting that when we hit the resistance phase and then finding the mentor, we have strength. We have strength, and it's interesting the way that this is portrayed, because it says basically you're more like this mouse and there's the lion. But you know what? You're brave enough to face the lion. So you're ready to do that, and you actually do have your own strategy and your way of dealing with things. It's very interesting given that oracle card. So there's a sense of strength beyond what people would even see, a capacity to deal with things beyond what people would even see that is attending you. So you would think, why would there be resistance to that? Why would that be the case? And what's interesting is when we look at this card as an indication of the resistance, we have the spirit of joyous liberation. So this is saying like freedom, you have freedom now, you can do whatever you want, you can fly. I think what this is saying is that when you get that energy of rush and I can move forward and all that stuff that we saw in the first two stages, the resistance is like, now why would I want to take on some sort of task? Why would I want to take some sort of burden on? Why can't I just be free and enjoy my life? Like, it's kind of like I feel now, I finally know I have all the energy. I can just move towards what I want to move towards. And like, I don't want to take a responsibility. I want to be free. I don't want to create some other sort of system. I don't want to do anything like that. So there's a resistance which is all about, I just want to be liberated and not worry about the rest of it. And then the mentor energy is the strategist, which is about how to be clever and wise and deal with things. And what we see here, the first thing we see is the Hierophant card. So, but this in the Gnostic Tarot and the Gnostic tradition, this is Valentinus. Now, the very interesting thing about him is that he almost became Pope, but he just missed out. But instead of that being a problem, he actually went off and started his own teaching of Gnosticism and so forth. And he very much emphasized liberation, freedom, and individuality. So I think that we're actually seeing a resistance which in its own weird way is the answer. I know that might sound really weird. Like normally with this, the resistance is to stop it, but there's something in what you're resisting or why you're resisting the next phase that is actually part of the answer and strategy. Because we've then got the Noria's journey, which is the king, which is wands, and this is the king of wands. So coming into your own power, your own individuality, your own creativity. And we have Sophia's journey with cups, page of cups reversed. The only sort of issue here about not knowing exactly what you want it to feel like beyond the sort of rush of individuality and freedom. But what else do you want to feel? And then we have the strategist that sort of says something about, well, if you're just wanting the freedom, you're wanting the individuality, but you're not really sure, how do I then, follow whatever this activation is? Like, how do I keep my freedom but still do that? How do I have a very different way of doing things that suits my creativity without losing the people, losing the connection, and all that kind of thing? So I think this is, weirdly enough, this is you as the free energy, and this is the strategist saying this is how you harness that energy. I think this is what's going on, but the first resistance, I don't even want to know about it. I just want to be free. And that's a perfectly reasonable thing, but that's the energy. Let's have a look at the affirmation. So the affirmation for strength is, I endure adversity with great fortitude. I am courageous and compassionate. This may also be part of it, that it's like, wow, and I've got this strength and I'm meant to move forward, and you want me to go into adversity. No, thank you very much. I want to be free. So as I say, I perfectly understand, but you have bigger fish to fry, I think, and you've got to work out a strategy. This activation is asking you to do more. So then if we have a look at that spirit of liberation, the affirmation is, I am joyous and free. So this is the thing, I've just got the energy. I'm just moving forward. I'm just creative. I've just got the chariots going with me. I'm moving forward. I just want to be free. Don't weigh me down with a task. But there is something to endure. There is a task. There is something that's meant to happen. Otherwise, you'll disconnect from your heart and disconnect from your spirit. So then the mentor energy comes in to give you strategy. And the affirmation is, I am wise, clever, and intelligent. I think that energy is meant to connect you to your own wisdom, your own intelligence, your own strategy. That's what a mentor or guide energy would do for you here, so that you can still have the freedom, but also meet the task or the ask the universe is making of you in this soul activation. So let's see what aspect of life, the real wish for liberation and the need for strategy to be able to do what you're meant to do, but still free and individual in it. Where is that most working out? Personal and spiritual growth. I've got a feeling that might have been the same in pile one, so a lot, but I can't remember for sure. If it was, I think it's still like this is all about who you are and how to be your own individual self and come into your power and everything, but then how to use it in a way that you're happy with, but also keeps you connected to your spiritual core and your heart. So what's the advice energy that Spirit has for you at this stage when you're resisting a bit of the responsibility and just wanting to be free and needing a strategy to be able to kind of have the best of both worlds? Find the lesson. Something has happened and it stopped you in your tracks. In reality, it was simply teaching you where you needed to grow. There is no such thing as failure, so pick yourself up, learn from it, and keep going. Now, I think that could connect back to the energy that was in the first reading, so the first couple of stages, because it looked as though you had been stopped or blocked, and then your energy is free. So this makes me think that the energy between now, these two stages and the first two stages is relatively short. You found the breakthrough, you move forward, and now you're wanting the freedom or whatever, but there was something in the blockage that is probably the answer to why it is you can't just fly away and do what you like. There is actually a greater purpose to this, and you've been freed and given that strength and that knowledge, and then the strategy is coming to be able to fulfill that energy as well. So let's get the tarot. Let's firstly look at a little bit more about what this block or resistance is and how your strength and your wish for freedom together somehow create a form of resistance to the soul activation calling at the moment for you. Oops. Okay. Summer reversed. The Lantern reversed. Seven of Cups reversed. Okay, this is a very internal thing. Nine of Wands in reversed. The Soldier. Okay, all right, okay. So, I do think that this is saying that if you just took the energy, the rush of inspiration and so forth, but you did it just to be free without a strategy and without a greater cause, you will not bring your harvest in. So there is a resistance to wanting to create and bring a harvest in, but equally it's important to stick to that so that you do bring the harvest in. There's something you're meant to create or bring into being as a result of finding your capacity to balance things and finding that we saw in the first part of this series. And the Lantern, this is an external thing. It's not like, interestingly enough, this is reversed, but the Lantern upright is very much like the Hermit card. It's finding the sort of light and the spiritual. There is something here that is very much connected to other people, and it's where light isn't shining. So it's like you're meant to shine the light on other things. Your resistance is you think it's going to be at an emotional cost, and you don't think this is very pragmatic. You're not really even sure. You're kind of like, it sounds nice that I might do all these sort of spiritual things to help others, but I'm not really sure. Do I really have a message? Possibly not. Why do I have to do this? I just want to be free. Thank you very much. And people are so difficult to deal with. Nine of Wands reversed. Like where do I find the energy to do this? And am I going to use up all my energy trying to convince people who don't want to see it? But there is a sort of sense in the end that you have a task. You know that you're called upon to some form of battle. You know that you're meant to materialize something in the world in that sort of space. So even though there is a resistance saying like, really, why is this my my responsibility. What am I supposed to bring to this? People are really difficult. I just want to be free. I can kind of hear you, and absolutely I do sympathise. Nevertheless, as the soldier, you need to move forward. And it's interesting because the soldier, is one of the major roles. So you do have a major role. It's also connected to the root chakra. So this is something very core to you. You might feel, no, I don't want, like it actually literally does feel like someone who has been in many battles and you're kind of like, I just want to go home. I just want to be free. But not yet. Sorry, not yet. That could come, but not yet. So let's see what help the mentor guide, this strategic thing could do for you. Having a strategic mentor or guide along this pathway. Avarice reversed, 3 of Cups, the Devil, 4 of Cups reversed. Okay, I think what the mentor says is, firstly, we've got to be realistic that, we're dealing with some fairly sort of heavy energies around this. There is some sort of battle or task or hero's quest you're meant to do. That's what this whole set of readings is about, really. They're saying that part of what we have to be strategizing around is how to get to a more harmonious outcome and less greedy outcome. It's like there's too much emphasis on what everybody gets. This is more about harmony. So this battle may be more strategic towards finding common sort of like wants and needs as opposed to everybody wanting to win. It's almost like the strategist here helps for a win-win. So the soldier doesn't need to use up all their energy battling. It's more negotiation. It's more shedding light on things, actually. It's more being emotionally pragmatic with difficult people. And the mentor clearly says there is a kind of an energy being bound up and everything. You might be free right now, but a lot of other people aren't, and you're meant to kind of inspire other people to be free and break out of their own emotional energies. So I think the mentor reminds you about why your capacity to do this has to become inspirational to others, and so you can't just fly off and have a good time. Sorry, you are actually meant, but it's not the battle in the same way. It's more to be inspirational and to negotiate and be strategic. You probably had to battle a lot more to get your own freedom and your own sense of self than you're going to have to actually battle for this, but you are going to need to connect with people in a strategic way. So let's use the Ego Observer Tarot, and I'm using that around this because I do think when we're in a resistance and we're looking for mentoring and learning, what is going on psychologically is really, really important. So we're using the Ego Observer Tarot, and we're going to get 3 cards for a bit more about the resistance and then 3 cards for a bit more about what the mentor can help with. So a bit more about the resistance. 7 of Swords reversed, self-sacrifice reversed. There you go. 3 of Cups, celebration. See, there is a connection. The mentor can see how this could really work out. And the Empress reversed. That's interesting with Summer reversed. Summer always makes me think of Demeter. Okay, then let's see what the mentor energy can bring to this psychologically. 9 of Wands. So we get past the difficult people when you find the energy that you need. The Fool reversed, self-discovery. And the High Priestess reversed, intuition reversed. Okay, so part of the block is that you're realistic enough to know that much as it's wonderful to have this freedom and this ability, in the end, there may be some degree of self-sacrifice required, and you're blocked against that. Now, I don't think it has to be major. This is why it's a strategic thing. But you're kind of aware that, you're given this sort of rush of energy and balance and forward momentum and inspiration, all that. That's wonderful, but you're actually going to have to kind of do something for it. And it's to do with other people and spreading the celebration. And maybe bringing back a more feminine sort of way of looking at things, divine feminine energy, bringing back more of love and connection and things, but in a strategic way. And I do think, like with the Empress reversed and Summer reversed, it's almost like for you also the resistance to really fully understand it. You need to go within and into the underworld almost. You almost need to do a Persephone type journey to understand the shadow energy that you're dealing with, because it's the thing that's blocking you. It's basically a shadow energy that doesn't want to self-sacrifice or believes that doing this will be. But I think that strategy is going to help you not do that, because this is suggesting you will have enough energy to do whatever you want. The Nine of Wands, you always have it. You may feel tired, but you will. The Fool reversed to me, I think your mentor will show you that you know this pathway already and you've done it before. And you've always been able to kind of fly again. So they reconnect you to that. And they bring you out. If you go into the shadow, because Persephone, I feel very strongly connected to the High Priestess, again, particularly if reversed. If you've gone into the shadow and into the underworld to understand your resistance, they bring you out of that, back into the sunshine, into the warmth, with the energy that you need, and to see that you are wise enough to do this. So if there's a block that has like, oh, I'm just going to get caught up in a trap, you won't. And in fact, you already know how to avoid it just being a battle and how to be strategic. The mentor is really just bringing out your own strategy. So let's have a look at the shadow then. I've got 2 decks that have questions. I'm going to look 2 questions for the inner shadow and 2 questions for the outer shadow. So the first question for the inner shadow is around your resistance. How do I deal with anger and what lies beneath my anger? So if you feel in a level that you finally got the energy to do something, yet again, you're having to do something for somebody else and you feel like I'm constantly doing things for other people, what's that anger about? Do you have the right people around you? Maybe you have people who are users, and like part of it, it's fine to be free from them and find the people who would appreciate and collaborate with you, for instance. There's a very big sense here with the Three of Cups turning up twice that maybe there are good people as well. So understanding the anger could help. The other question on the inner level is, what if you honored that some things are outside of your control? Yeah. Like you can't necessarily stop a calling. And if you go, okay, rather than be angry about it, I'll work out how to strategically do it. Do you know what it makes me think of? There's a version of the King Arthur story where Clive Owen plays King Arthur. I really like Clive Owen, so I watched it. But then I watch pretty much anything that's about King Arthur. And in it, the knights have been fighting and they're about to go home and be freed. And then there's one more thing they have to do. And although they don't want to do it, their loyalty to Arthur, they do it. So it's almost got that kind of feeling. It's like, okay, all right. Yes, I wanted to go and have a good time and be free, but there is something else I'm meant to do. I'll come to terms with that. Then externally, a question to ask yourself around the shadow and resistance. What do I criticize in others and how does it reflect my own insecurities? So is some of this that you feel like I'm constantly having to fight for other people, I'm constantly having to inspire them, I'm constantly having to go over and over this. And what does that mean? Why is it your own sort of issue about having a direction and so forth, or using your strength? What's going on? Why are you kind of angry that this great gift that you have and this great ability and this great energy and this great creativity might get connected with other people to some degree rather than being completely free? And the other question around this is, what if everything isn't always fair? Yeah. It isn't always fair. This is the thing. Like, I don't think you're being really unreasonable. I do think, as I say, that's why I was thinking of that movie, and like it was really unfair to the knights because they'd done everything they were supposed to do and then they had to go and fight again. So there is a kind of energy like that around it, but there is a strategic way to get around this. And it's not that you don't fulfill what you need, but there's a way of doing it without it being a big battle and without it using up all your energy. So you do still to get to do it your way and be free at the same time. So that's very promising. So let's see what mentors can help you. So we're going to have a human one, an archangel, and an animal familiar as well, just to give you some idea of the kind of mentor energy that is coming to help you in a person or in a group or in a spirit, somebody in your spirit team, whatever it might be. So firstly, oh wow, St. Joan of Arc. Okay. Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, she was a battler. She was a soldier. She went right out into it, and she did self-sacrifice. So, but she did it for a greater vision. So there is sort of something about a greater vision here. This doesn't mean you have to end up kind of like Joan of Arc, but it does mean that there is a kind of a holy, spiritual light around what you're meant to be doing here, and you have the bravery to do it. But I'm sure every once in a while she would have liked the battles to be over. All soldiers would. What is the archangel mentor energy around you? Barachiel. So this is doing stuff for the community, for the tribe, for the people. This is why you actually really have a lovely heart. You know, I'm not meaning to say that you're kind of really selfish. You really have done so much. You do so much for everybody else. On some level, it's absolutely reasonable. You go, oh, I finally had some freedom and now this. But you are doing it for the greater good of everybody and for the community and for the nourishment of everybody. And you will have the guidance to help you with that. And also how to nourish yourself as a result of it. And then an animal familiar for you is, wow, the white fly, singularity. So the creator of this deck, the white fly, is one of his familiars. It's a very rare thing. So it's a very rare mentor or guide you're going to get, one who is very strategic, very absolutely right at the right time, whether it's a spirit guide or whether it's a person that you meet. So there's something very singular about that, to give you the way to deal with this and to guide you and mentor you. But I think it's also to bring out what is very true and singular about you. Remember, we have Valentinus at the beginning who, you know, could have been the Pope, didn't quite make it, but then started his own tradition. There is something about this. I almost feel as though it's saying there's almost like one more battle or one more thing you're meant to go in and create something new, after which the tradition will carry on and others will be able to carry that on. But you're meant to do this. Then you'll be truly free, but you're meant to do this first. Okay, so let's get you some galactic, guys. Let's get you some celestial star energy as well. Arcturus. Oh, Arcturus, which it kind of leads to Arthur. No wonder I thought of that movie. Strong will, pioneer, forward-thinking, change-making. Yeah, you're the one who's strong enough for this. And sometimes it's not fair. The future is bright. Look at that. Sometimes it's not fair, but it falls on the strong ones to do it. It's part of your nature. And Mercury, communication, swiftness, agility, travel. I think this might also be a mercurial energy around the strategic energy, but you will be able to communicate what you need when you've worked out your strategy, and it goes fast. So I almost think this is saying that it's one more hurrah where you have to kind of win something and lead out and you know, to be, you know, Russell Crowe's character in Gladiator in that early sort of like war when he sort of leads everybody out, that kind of energy. But after that, your communication, your strategy kind of looks after itself. Okay, so what I'm going to close out the reading with is a card to almost beckon into next week's reading if you're watching this as they're publishing, or part 3 whenever you watch it, presuming you do. So this was about where you resist the call and where you find a mentor to help you with that. The next 2 stages are crossing the threshold where you commit to doing whatever this is. And then there's also the kind of learning the environment sort of thing. It's like an environment scan, and you learn who are your allies and who are your friends and who are your competitors, who are your collaborators, who are your enemies potentially. It's understanding really more of what you're dealing with. So I just want to see an energy that you will be approaching or finding when you go through those steps. Cry for the moon. Okay. I think that this is saying that there is something deeply spiritual about this. There's something about the feminine. This is why we were getting the Persephone feeling. I feel that you're going to find that you have to do this and you had to commit, because there are people who are truly suffering, people who are in the dark and need to be liberated in some way. And I think this is you bringing a peace and a strategy and a way forward and a light forward. But yeah, I mean, I think you're going to have allies and enemies, but you're also going to have people that you're doing this for in whatever way it is. So I hope that resonates for you, Pile 3. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in part 3.